Welcome to Johnny and Mali Stories. Book 1, A New Beginning. Episode 1, The First Day in Bangkok. Hello, my friend. My name is Johnny Tennessee. Thank you for joining me today. I'd like to tell you a story that changed my life forever. It happened on my very first day in Bangkok. Have you ever traveled somewhere where nobody knew your name? Have you ever looked out of a window and wondered what your future might become? That was exactly how I felt. As the airplane slowly began to land, I looked through the window. Below me, I saw a city I had dreamed about for many years. Long roads, tall buildings, a wide river shining under the afternoon sun. Everything looked so different from my hometown in Tennessee. I smiled without even knowing it. For years, Thailand had been only a dream. Now, it was finally real. The airplane touched the runway gently. I took a slow, deep breath. Then I whispered, "Hello, Thailand." When I was a little boy, my father kept an old world map on the wall of our living room. Sometimes, he pointed to places far away. Then he smiled and said, "Johnny, the world is much bigger than our little town. One day, go and see it." I never forgot those words. My father is no longer with me, but every journey I take still begins with his voice. I picked up my old brown guitar. Then I lifted my suitcase. People often ask me, "Why don't you put your guitar with the luggage?" I always smile. Then I give the same answer. Some things are simply too precious to let go. This guitar was my father's gift on my 18th birthday. It isn't new. It isn't perfect. But every small scratch holds a beautiful memory. When the airport doors opened, warm air touched my face. It felt different. I could smell flowers, fresh food, rain, and something I couldn't explain: hope. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about yesterday. I was thinking about tomorrow. Maybe this journey would become the greatest adventure of my life. Outside the airport, a friendly taxi driver waved at me. "Good afternoon," he said. "Welcome to Thailand." His smile made me smile too. "Thank you," I answered. He placed my suitcase into the trunk, but my guitar stayed beside me. Some journeys should begin with music. As we drove into the city, I couldn't stop looking outside. Bangkok was full of life. Cars moved slowly. Motorbikes passed us. Street vendors were preparing delicious food. Children were laughing. People were talking. Everyone seemed busy. But somehow, the city didn't feel stressful. It felt alive. Then, something made me laugh. A bright blue tuk-tuk stopped beside our taxi. The driver looked at me. He smiled. Then he waved. Without thinking, I waved back. The taxi driver laughed. "First time in Thailand?" he asked. "Yes." "It shows." We both laughed. "I've never seen a tuk-tuk before," I said. "You'll ride one soon." "I hope so." For a moment, I forgot that I was nervous. I simply enjoyed the ride. A few minutes later, our taxi crossed a bridge. I turned my head toward the river. Golden sunlight covered the water. Small boats moved slowly. Everything became quiet. "What river is that?" I asked. "The Chao Phraya River, the heart of Bangkok." I looked at the river for a long time. Sometimes beautiful places don't need many words. They simply stay in your heart. I opened the small notebook I always carry with me. Whenever an idea appears, I write it down before it disappears. That afternoon, I wrote only one sentence. Every city has its own song. I looked at those words, then I smiled. Maybe my next song would begin right here. Our taxi finally stopped, in front of a small hotel beside the river. It wasn't a big hotel, it wasn't a luxury hotel, but somehow it felt warm. The receptionist welcomed me with a kind smile. "Welcome, Mr. Tennessee. I hope you enjoy your stay." "Thank you very much," I replied. A few minutes later, I opened the door to my room. It was quiet, simple, clean. A comfortable bed stood beside the window. I placed my suitcase next to the bed. Then, I carefully placed my guitar beside the window. Some people unpack their clothes first. I always unpack my guitar first. I slowly opened the curtains. For a moment, I forgot to breathe. Outside, the Chao Phraya River was glowing under the evening sky. The city lights were beginning to appear. Small boats moved quietly across the water. Everything looked peaceful. Everything looked beautiful. I opened the window. A cool evening breeze entered the room. Somewhere in the distance, I heard the sound of a boat. Then, I heard birds returning home. Bangkok felt different now. It no longer felt like a strange city. It felt welcoming. I picked up my guitar. I didn't play a song. I only played a few gentle notes. The room became very quiet. Those simple notes reminded me of my father. He loved evenings like this. Sometimes we sat together without saying a word. He played his guitar. I simply listened. Back then, I never imagined those moments would become my happiest memories. I smiled. Then I looked outside again. The lights were dancing on the surface of the river. I whispered, "Thank you, Dad. I finally made it." For a little while, I simply stood there, watching Bangkok slowly welcome the night. And somehow, I felt that tomorrow would be the beginning of something wonderful. After a short rest, I decided to go downstairs. I wanted to buy a bottle of water before going to bed. The hotel lobby was quiet. Soft music was playing in the background. Near the front door, an elderly security guard was sitting peacefully. When he saw me, he smiled. "First day in Bangkok?" he asked. "Yes, it is," I answered with a smile. "Then, welcome." His voice was gentle. It reminded me of my grandfather. He looked across the street, then he pointed quietly. "See that little coffee shop?" I looked where he was pointing. Across the road, there was a small coffee shop. Warm yellow lights glowed through the windows. Fresh flowers stood beside the entrance. It looked peaceful, almost magical. "The coffee there," the old man said, "is very good. The owner is a very kind person. You should visit tomorrow morning." I smiled. "I think I will." For a few seconds, I quietly looked at the little coffee shop. Someone was inside. I couldn't see the person's face, only a gentle shadow moving slowly between the tables. The lights became softer. Someone carefully arranged fresh flowers near the window. For some reason, the little coffee shop made me smile. I thanked the old security guard. Then I slowly walked back to my room. Before closing the curtains, I looked across the street one last time. The little coffee shop was still glowing in the quiet Bangkok night. I had no idea that tomorrow morning I would walk through that door. I had no idea that one simple cup of coffee would change my life forever. Sometimes, the biggest changes begin with the smallest moments. Thank you for walking with me today. I'll see you in episode 2, The Girl with the Warm Smile. Good night, my friend.